I would like to call to order the November 4th, 2015 school committee meeting. The time now is 7 p.m. The November 4th, 2015 school committee meeting will be televised and recorded. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting. At this time, I would ask if anyone is recording tonight's meeting to please identify themselves. Mr. Foley from the town crier. Thank you. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask this evening our honored guests, both from the Best Bunnies and the Adaptive Ski Program, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is right over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we have some recognition, so at this time I'd like to turn it over to Dr. O'Connor to honor those people here this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Palomino. We have two very special guests here this evening that we would like to recognize. The first are the student leaders of our Best Buddy program at Tewksbury Memorial High School. We have 4 students that have organized the Best Buddies program, and they are Alexis Brinklow. Alexis, would you come on up, please? Amanda Aylwood, Irene Hode, and Julia Sesser. Just right there's good. Now let me tell you a little something about the Best Buddies program. It was actually a program started approximately 20 years ago by, I believe it was one of the Sargent families or one of the relatives of the Kennedy family that was very much involved. And there are now 1,600 chapters of Best Buddies in middle schools and high schools all over the country. And the Best Buddies is a program that teams up kids with cognitive and physical disabilities with typical students, and it's been very successful here at the high school. And ladies, would you like to tell us a little bit about the program?
So we started around last January. We got our chapter. We started out with, I want to say, 8 of our special needs kids in the high school, and then this year we've grown to about 23. We're hoping to still get more. I'm going to have Julia explain some of the events that we did last year.
So some of the events that we did, we took the kids bowling. We had a Frozen movie night, which all the kids love. Like, if people love Frozen. We did a basketball game with them. This year we had a Halloween party, and now we're working on matching up our kids to have inclusion friendships.
Great. We have a proclamation we'd like to read. Mr. Francis.
Resolution of recognition. Whereas 4 Tewksbury Memorial High School students, Alexis Brinklow, Amanda Elwood, Irene Hood, and Julia Sessa, under the direction of advisors Brian Elwood and Michelle Dick, worked together to start a Best Buddies program at Tewksbury Memorial High School. And whereas Alexis, chapter president, Amanda, vice president, Julia, secretary, and Irene, treasurer, studied the structure and protocols of the Best Buddies organization. And whereas Alexis, Amanda, Julia, and Irene attended the Best Buddies Leadership Conference at the University of Indiana this past July. And whereas the 4 students have recruited over 60 student volunteers and nearly 20 buddies from Tewksbury Memorial High School. And whereas Tewksbury Memorial High School Best Buddies program will officially enter into the one-to-one friendship pairings this year. And whereas the Best Buddies program kicked off the school year with a parent informational night followed by the Best Buddies Halloween party. And whereas the Best Buddies program has planned monthly events for the 2015-2016 school year, including a trip to Weymouth Lanes, Stone Zoo, and a Celtics game. And whereas Alexis, Amanda, Julia, Irene, advisors Brian Elwood and Michelle Dick, volunteers and buddies have brought great pride, recognition, enthusiasm, and honor to themselves, to their parents and families, to their school, and to the town of Tewksbury. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Tewksbury School Committee applauds, honors, recognizes the outstanding initiative of Alex Brinklow, Amanda Elwood, Julia Sessa, Irene Hood, Mr. Elwood, Mrs. Dick, to create a program that is a great source of pride for our schools and our community. Congratulations.
And while girls, if you don't mind staying there, can we have our ski team come on up? And Mr. Galligan, you're going to come up, and Mrs. McGregor-Fay. All right, I'd like to introduce members of our adaptive ski team here at Tewksbury Memorial High School. I mentioned that Pat Galligan and Ann McGregor-Fay, our two advisors, are here, and we certainly applaud and recognize and value everything that they do with our students. Current adaptive ski team members are Alyssa Anderson, Zachary Cabral, Joseph Gonzalez, Michael Monterio, Carol Sawyer, Chris Sawyer, Ray Sutherland, Jacob Trudeau, Alex Van Ryzen. Alumni members who might be here are Christina Savizzi, Lacey Drew, James Fallon, Lisa Poore, Janelle Thoreau, Mary Alex Wilson, and Kevin Wong. And we have future adaptive ski members that would be skiing possibly for the first time this year. Jacob Betancourt, Hannah Dwight, Billy Glidden, Brandon Peters, and Wayne Shea. I know, Ann, you were going to say something about the program, or?
Sure, why not?
Please.
We've been together for about 5 years. Mr. G started it with a life skills class years before that. And we have grown to, I think our total number is 21 between alumni, present, and future. It's absolutely wonderful. We go up to Sunapee and ski with NESA, the New England Handicap Sports Association. They provide the instructors, the equipment. We raise the money for the lift tickets and all the other things. We do a banquet at the end, provided we have money. We take all the families. The club raised enough money to have all the families come overnight, so the kids get to ski on Saturday. We have an après ski party at the hotel. Afterwards, the kids can go to the pool, hang out together, just socialize, and then we ski again all day Sunday. And we come back, everybody's good and tired.
I can imagine.
So it's just, they get to get out in the fresh air, and it gives them something to do that maybe their siblings haven't done, or they never thought they could do themselves. One of my best favorite quotes was, "Never ever thought I'd be skiing with this child in my family." And here I am.
There you go.
Just never know what opportunities there are when they're presented.
Mr. G, you've been doing this for quite a while. You started the program initially. What prompted you to think that we could start a ski team here?
I think exactly that. Every year we have a goal in our class of trying to accomplish something that either we're not supposed to do, people don't think we can do, or we didn't think we could do. And that year was skiing, and we ended up at Mount Wachusett for the day on St. Patrick's Day. And it was like a natural fit, and it binds everyone together so closely that the ski club was born after that. It's provided an outlet for the parents to bond and meet and not only socialize, but it brings our whole program together.
And it takes two people who volunteer to do this that really that bind this together, that makes this happen, and we certainly appreciate what the both of you do.
Thank you.
We have a citation we'd like to read. This is about all of you, so listen carefully.
We have a resolution of recognition that whereas the Tewksbury Memorial High School Adaptive Ski Club, a group of 21 athletes, Alyssa Anderson, Zachary Cabral, Joseph Gonzalez, Michael Montero, Carol Sawyer, Chris Sawyer, Ray Sutherland, Jacob Trudeau, Alex Van Riesen, Christina Savisi, Lacey Drew, James Fallon, Lisa Poore, Janelle Tetrault, Mary Alex Wilson, Kevin Wong, Jacob Betancourt, Hannah Dwight, Billy Glidden, Brandon Peters, and Wayne Shea participate in the Adaptive Ski Club. And whereas the TMHS Adaptive Ski Club, under the direction of advisors Patrick Galligan and advisor Ann McGregor-Fay, is run through the NESI and the New England Handicap Ski Association, is a comprehensive, safe, and highly structured organization which provides all equipment, trained adaptive instructors, and lessons to the members of the Adaptive Ski Club. And whereas the TMHS Adaptive Ski Club provides multiple high-quality opportunities to students with a professional handicapped ski association, and whereas the TMHS Adaptive Ski Club members participate in 4 ski trips to Mount Sunapee ski area and 1 overnight trip to New Hampshire during the skiing season, and whereas the TMHS Adaptive Ski Club members demonstrate hard work, sportsmanship, perseverance, and character throughout the season, and whereas the Tewksbury Memorial High School Adaptive Ski Club has brought great pride, recognition, enthusiasm, and honor to themselves, to their parents and their families, to the Tewksbury Memorial High School, and to the town of Tewksbury. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tewksbury School Committee applauds, honors, and recognizes the outstanding achievement of the Tewksbury Memorial High School Adaptive Ski Club members and their advisors, Patrick Galligan and Ian McGregor-Fay. Thank you.
So we'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. More importantly, make sure you look at the camera because you're all going to be on television. That's going to be very important. You can call people you know, videotape it, DVR, and email it to your friends and relatives all over the country. They love watching you on television. And all I can say is let's hope we have a lot of snow this winter. Huh? A lot of no school days. Mrs. Palomino.
So on behalf of the school committee, we just want to say a few things. First of all, we want to thank Mrs. Fay and Mr. Gillian. This, I don't know for people that are watching, this is a volunteer. They don't get a stipend for this. They've been doing this for 5 years. They do this because they love these students so much and they give so much of their free time. And we can't thank you from the bottom of our heart for creating this program. It's an exemplary program. The other thing I don't think people know, to my knowledge, we are the only program that exists in Massachusetts that's an adaptive ski program. So that in itself is absolutely unbelievable. Should be commended so much, and we love to see the videos, we love to see the kids, and we're hoping to get a little more involved. So invite us to things. Maybe some of us will try skiing. I don't know. I'm not a skier myself.
Has anybody bought a wreath yet?
I am, yes. They're selling wreaths, so we will definitely do that. Come after us. But thank you very, very much. And then I also wanted to acknowledge the Best Buddies program. There's somebody in this room that has been very instrumental in helping us. We've been trying to get this program, believe it or not, up and running for 5 years. It's not something that happened overnight. But Mr. Billy Brinklow, who's in here, who's the father of Alexis Brinklow, was very instrumental where he came from another district that did it and did it very well, and he had some, let's say, little pull. And Mrs. Vogel as well. So they were able to get us from very deep on the list to move up, move up, move up. And it became a reality where we got recognized nationally. So I think that's really wonderful. So thank you, Mr. Brinklow, for all you do and all the volunteers. And I also just want to say that we are so excited about this Best Buddies program. This is the culture of Tewksbury, and it always has been, and it's nice to really see us bring this culture inside the schools and really build these one-on-one relationships and also do these wonderful things with the students. So it's really wonderful. We're all excited, and we will continue to support this program and any other programs that you bring forward. So thank you so much for everyone that's involved, and thank you for the leadership of these students to step up, go to that wonderful conference that I've heard all of them have said what a great experience it was, but you have to be true leaders to actually take this on. This is not led by the advisors. The advisors are having the students lead it, and you guys have done a fabulous job creating all these activities and programs for the 2015 and 2016 school year. So we commend you, and we look forward to participating. So send us invitations, and we'll do the best we can. We'll come when we come, and we look forward to supporting this program wholeheartedly. So thank you very much.
All right, there were cookies and punch out there. If you want to have a little snack before you go back and do your homework, that's fine. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
My pink Cadillac, that's fantastic.
What does it say? Cadillac.
I love that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
My pink pen.
Okay, so we did that.
So at this time, we're going to move right along on the agenda. And next up is our student representative report. So our student representative, Mr. Justin Petrie, is here to give us our Tewksbury Memorial High School update.
Thank you. The TMHS Theater Company is selling tickets for their fall show, Fools by Neil Simon. Tickets are available for November 12th through the 14th for $5 for students and $7 for adults. The DECA annual fashion show will be held on November 19th to raise money for the Megan McCarthy Fund. Tickets will be sold by the end of next week for $5 each. Student Council is arranging their annual leaf-raking service project for the first 3 weekends of November. Food drive and pep rally are being planned for later in the month, and the annual charity drive to benefit local organizations will now be a school-wide service project. See Ms. Glass in A205 if you are interested in helping. And the National Honor Society is still selling custom Tewksbury umbrellas and Thanksgiving Day game t-shirts. See Ms. Puma in B209 for order forms.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Petrie.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. O'Connor, may we have the presentations this evening?
Yes, we do. The first is the fiscal year 16 Quality Enhancement in After-School and Out-of-School Time Competitive Grant Award. Cindy Vasteri is here. Cindy, if you'd like to come on up. And Janet Gordon is...
I'm Janet Gordon.
Janet Gordon is our science teacher here at the high school. She's brought a little something with her.
With her, part of the excitement of this grant that we want to share with you this evening. This was a competitive grant. Tewksbury was only one of 10 school systems or entities that got this grant. And it's going to be used to support the continued funding of both the after-school credit recovery program and summer school. It will also offset a portion of ingenuity for next year and teacher stipends for professional development. Quality service learning, which is what this grant is all about, is a standards-based and reflective of the curriculum, but it makes learning fun and excited for these reluctant learners that we have sometimes in our school system that are involved in these programs. And I'd like to turn over the mic to Mrs. Gordon, who has been doing quality service learning for the past couple of years in the MCAS support program, and now we're going to tie it to our ingenuity curriculum, and she's going to tell you a little bit about it with a unique prop that we have. One of only the presenter in Massachusetts is the only other holder of this particular prop.
The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's presenter has one of these, and she inspired me to make my own. This is a three-legged stool of service learning. Service learning has three components. It's got student ownership, it's got academic integrity, and it's got what they call apprentice citizenship. So they're trying to get the kids to be involved. So it's sort of like a little bit of community service, a little bit of academic content, as well as student-driven. So it's got three pieces to it. And the way this little stool is constructed is that if you don't have one piece, you don't have service learning. It has to be all three pieces to be service learning. So I actually use this little stool, my little rickety stool here, to teach the kids what service learning is, so they can understand what their role is and how they're involved. So in the 3 years that we've been doing this, the students have chosen projects and we have, I guess, less time than other schools across Massachusetts in our programs to do this. So I guess the DESE is very proud of us because we can accomplish a lot in very little time. But what I've seen is the students really enjoy participating in this sort of thing. They do get content in Edgenuity. There's content that relates to whatever the project is that they choose. They get the time to spend making the project, and they're very enthusiastic about doing that. And they work with someone in need within the community, so it meets a need in the community. Would you like me to talk about our little garden from last summer?
Well, the most recent endeavor for this service learning piece was the garden that has been started, and Mrs. Gordon has done a phenomenal amount of work getting community partners to help with the garden, and it has started very small, but we're hoping to expand that to be able to service more people, maybe, help our food services program. There's so many different ways that this project can go.
So as a small example, this last summer, we took kids doing the Ingenuity program in the summer, and we asked them to brainstorm what they would like to do in terms of the community project. We invited the Tewksbury Public Schools Food Service Director, Deb Mugford, to come. They asked her questions related to what the needs were in the district and whatever. They decided on making a garden, a vegetable garden. They did all the planning in terms of what materials they would need, what the costs would be. They decided what they wanted to plant. They, when we finally had the time to put it together, we were given some time from the day, summer school day, every day. They were out there in 90-degree weather, and they built 2 garden beds. They assembled 2 garden beds, and they filled them with compost and soil. And they planted those plants, and I can tell you, they feel ownership over what they've done. And the fact that on a hot summer day, they had no qualms about going out and doing this was remarkable to me, and it was very rewarding for me to see. So we're enthusiastic about continuing with the service learning.
And just an important side note, this is all tied to the curriculum. This is not just something where the kids come in and build a garden. For example, they might calculate in math the amount of soil needed. In science, they would calculate the growth period, the seasonal growth. I mean, it is all tied to community, to the curriculum. And Ingenuity is fairly new in our school system. We piloted it this summer, and we are still working towards making sure every single subject or course matches our curriculum. So this will allow us the time to be able to continue with that work and continue to match the Ingenuity curriculum to Tewksbury Memorial High School standard-based curriculum, and also add the excitement of a certain service learning piece. And that grant will allow us to do that. That's it.
Any questions from the committee? Hey, Cindy, did you mention the dollar value of the grant?
It's a little more than $30,000, split between the after-school program and the summer school program.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Mr. Dick?
Is that something that we apply for each year, or,
This was kind of a brand new
one-off?
grant. I am, previous grants that we've done service learning under have been MCAS support grants. This is the first time that we've done, that we've applied for this particular grant that has service learning as a component of an after-school and summer school program. They call it an program enhancement grant. So a little bit different, but again, allows us to expand. So depending on the funding, it's always questionable as to what will happen next, but we got it, and we're going to use it, put it to good use for sure.
where's the garden? Is it on campus?
It's outside door 12, which is
Thank you.
this side of the school. You actually, if we didn't have this wall here, you'd be able to see it from this room. So it's near the kitchen. The children chose the spot. It's near the kitchen. And we actually did have a little bit of produce we were able to give to the kitchen to have a little taste test. Had a lot of radishes. They liked radishes. So its access is first floor, easy to get to, easy to bring produce into the kitchen. We also made a small donation to the community pantry, because that was part of what kids had wanted to do too. And to touch on a little bit about that content as well, the biology curriculum that I teach very much meets with the whole vegetable and garden and nutrient cycling and energy flow and ecosystems. So it's a nice match. It's a very good match.
It's great to hear when you tie free money, right, with the curriculum and the community, and it just pulls in every little bit of what Tewksbury is all about. So I commend both of you for getting that. I think it's great for our kids and the community. So keep up the great work. And thanks for coming in and presenting. Mrs. Palmier.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Any other comments? Mrs. Miller?
I've been following this project along for a while now. I think I actually have your email still in my bag. Let me put it in the paper, because it's something that I've supported for a long time. I started a garden 100 years ago when my daughter was in kindergarten. So
congratulations, and it's wonderful to see us getting some statewide attention for the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Anyone else?
I just want, I mean, based on our See It, Say It, Share It initiative this year, Janet, you really need to know that about 300 teachers from out of district were here yesterday, and so many saw the raised beds and said, what is that about? And when I told them it was a service learning project attached to our credit recovery and our science curriculum, there were lots of oohs and ahs. So I suspect that you're going to have teachers from other districts want to know how you approach the project, how you got the funds to build the raised beds, who's involved, lots of interest. So you should know that and be proud.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Regan. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you very much.
Allowing us to share it.
Our next presentation involves our technology director, Keith Young. Keith is going to come up and go into some detail on the issues that have been plaguing Tewksbury Memorial High School. This has been an ongoing battle. I can almost say since the building opened, we've had great periods where things have worked beautifully. Keith and his staff have been working with a very complex system and have managed to keep it up and running, but in the last 3 weeks, we have experienced some real technical difficulties that you'll hear from Keith. We are going to extraordinary lengths to try to resolve these issues. Keith.
Yes, absolutely. A synopsis is the internet connectivity here at the high school has suffered greatly within the last 3-week period. We spent a great deal of time trying to identify and isolate what the problem may be. And it's a little like chasing rabbits in that there are numbers of areas that present themselves in different ways. The problem appears to occur only when students are in the building. It appears to occur with such an intensity that anyone in the building is unable to get onto the internet. We've utilized the resources we have externally, which includes Edition Networks, Wally Computers, Comcast. They all look like we were running fine except for the fact that it wasn't working. And in some further investigation, Edition Networks ran some tests and discovered a signature that appears to be a denial of service attack. This was only happening when students were in the building primarily. To make it a little more complex, we had already had in place a plan to upgrade the internet connectivity from 100 megabits to 150 megabits per second. That occurred during that time, and we're losing internet connectivity, which appears to be in conjunction with this other problem that we're having. Suffice to say that it's been very complex. It's been incredibly frustrating for everyone involved. The good news is that we determined that we need a, for lack of a better term, a fat pipe into the high school. We signed an agreement with Verizon. They were out yesterday and today. That fat pipe we are now running on. It's 500 megabits down, 500 megabits up. And it appears to be working very well. The other part was in trying to isolate exactly where the problem may be. We have segmented off the students' wireless network onto a virtual private network. A VLAN, virtual local area network. And they will be going out a separate door, if you will, to the internet. This won't solve the problem, but it may help to identify exactly where it is and verify that it's on the student network. Additionally, and this happened today, the students will be required to log in, to authenticate using their Windows login in order to get onto the student network. That is in place. I wasn't sure where it was. I got notified about 5 o'clock tonight that that's up, it's running. I tested it when I got here. It seems to be working fine. The high school staff was put on notice that this was going to happen. They'll receive instructions for the students first thing in the morning in exactly how this is going to work. The primary reason behind that is now we can associate a name with a student device, where, you know, it used to be like, you know, Fred's iMac means nothing. Now we can identify exactly who the student is, what the device is, and hopefully be able to isolate those students that have this malware on their device and help them clean it up. That's where we're at. Fingers crossed things are going to be much smoother tomorrow. I've been sitting here, I apologize if it looks like I wasn't paying attention. I was actually checking the network speeds. I can tell you right now it's flying. We saw speeds of over 400 down and 400 up earlier, and the only reasons we were seeing the speeds at less than 500 because that's as fast as the test could go. So we were exceeding the test's ability to keep up with the internet. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this. You know, to students who may be listening, their parents, I understand it's incredibly frustrating, and I want to let everyone know that my team has been working on this since the beginning. I've had 3 technicians here in the building working from before 6 o'clock in the morning until after 5 o'clock at night, trying to isolate and get this problem resolved.
Thank you, Mr. Nunn. I'd like to open it up to any of my colleagues with questions we may have. Mr. Cutlass?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't understand, you said a denial of service attack?
Sure, it's a malware attack. Basically, you've heard of incidents where people get their computers captured and you have to pay to get it released.
Like the police department, for example, recently here in Tewksbury.
It's exactly like that, and I suspect that the people who have this, and I believe it's students, but I'm not segmenting anyone. I believe they're not even aware. It's probably something they downloaded. It didn't work. They're going like, oh well, without knowing that in the background it's causing all this havoc.
Oh, okay. It's coming in on their computer.
Oh yes, this is nothing that the school owns as far as equipment goes. We can track all of that. We know exactly where that equipment is. It's all identified with a tag number. The equipment is outside that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cutlass. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have any cost implications from having to address these problems and increasing our service to the district?
All of the work that's been done, we either have an already in place contract. I do have a company coming in. They're trying to sell us a device that would pinpoint this type of problem. I will share with you that I had already had this on my radar. Actually, it was a preliminary part was funded by the town last year. Unfortunately, with the opening of school, I was in the process of reviewing network management tools that would help us with this, and we got hit. So they are coming in, the company is called Extreme Networks. They have special ordered equipment. They're coming in early next week to run their equipment on our network pro bono to show that what they can do. So far there's been no costs for this problem except for technicians' times.
Keith, can you, and isn't there a cost associated with the new inflow and outflow?
With upgrading the, I'm sorry, upgrading to the 500/500, we increased the cost. It's about it's going to be about $530 per month for the increased internet.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Mr. Francis?
I think I just one question, because I'm not the most computer savvy
Sure.
person in the world. So once, starting tomorrow, when students and teachers log on to their own, if there's a problem with an individual computer, you'll be able to pick that up on where it's coming from?
Yeah, that's the plan. We've got numbers of people looking at the network to try to identify exactly where the problem is. We went from 150 and 25 to 500, 500. That's a big jump.
It's huge.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Mr.
Quick
Dick?
question. So tomorrow, if there is a problem and you can't identify the source, is it as easy to just remove the kids from the picture and then just focus on the...
So that's essentially what we've done. We've essentially separated, segmented it out so that the students are on their own network. What I suspect is we will see a problem on their network. We will have a better ability, since they've logged on, to identify exactly which device is causing this problem.
So you've done that this week, so...
That happened today.
Oh, today, so you'll be able to identify...
We put plans in place. Unfortunately, because the network is very complex, that required a top-tier technician from Wally Computers to come out on site, and he just wasn't available before today.
So the teachers are going to be able to do what they need to do in the classroom tomorrow.
That's exactly what the goal is.
Yeah. It's still not 100%, right? But that's the goal. I know it's tough to figure out. I was just trying to understand the plan. So, because I know it's been very frustrating for a lot of people.
It's been incredibly frustrating.
A lot of calls and for Sherry and all that. So, appreciate all the effort and to your technicians, and hopefully, that problem that happened before, right, about a year ago.
Yeah.
A couple of years. Was it the same type of thing or totally different?
It's totally different. This is related to personal devices being...
it was a malware type of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing was more of a bandwidth.
Yeah, the other thing was a bandwidth issue. Yep.
So, okay, great.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
luck.
Dick.
Thank you.
I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, when I look at this as a whole, and has the introduction of Google Classrooms had any impact on this? Or you're saying it's strictly that you think it's something that students are bringing in and that's why, but I mean, do you think we've had any impact now implementing Google Classrooms across the district?
So...
And certainly here at the high school?
I've got mixed responses to that, in that Google says no. Google says that where we were at, we should have plenty of capacity. Speaking with another district, we were told that they ran into a similar issue in their district, and they had to increase the size of their internet connection to make it work. So the answer is I don't know, and once we get it solved, maybe we can get a better handle on exactly what traffic is causing what.
Can I make a note? Yesterday, about 400 people in the building, all on Wi-Fi, all working through Google Docs, which is what the students are doing, and we were fine. So it's hard to isolate exactly where the issue is, but it does appear. I mean, it's clearly when all the students are here. I mean, but we are a school, we need students here, we need to fix it. But it clearly happens then. And in the morning before they're here, we're streaming fine. In the afternoon, when there's still some students and teachers here, we're back to good. So yesterday, with about half the capacity of a usual day, or maybe a third, we were going very well.
We did have a couple of drops.
I heard that there were problems still, though, right?
Yesterday. Well, the server that was.
That was the technician shut it off.
So unfortunately, a server yesterday
was a different issue.
Because I'm getting calls.
Had a memory issue.
Too, so.
It shut itself down. It actually did exactly what it was supposed to do. It started rebuilding the connections, and we were back online in fairly short order, within minutes. Additionally...
Different problem.
Yep. Additionally...
Is that being communicated to people? That it was a different problem?
Yes. Yesterday it was definitely.
Yep. Additionally, we have seen an up and down issue on the internet. It just drops out. Everything seems to be working fine. It just drops out. I suspect that's a Comcast issue, which we're moving away from. But it's hard to identify because we keep having this other issue that's overarching.
Well, the reason I mentioned that too is that I was here the day before the opening of school.
Yep.
For the staff meeting, and we had a problem where we couldn't get that to play up on the screen. And there was, what, 250 teachers? How many teacher staff do we have? So that's not 400 students, but we're having problems then. I'm just trying to figure out
Right, that was specifically a wireless issue in that room.
Okay, so that was separate, okay.
Yep.
What concerns do you have us moving forward? Like, what is your concern level at this point? I know you've said we've identified it could be student-related. I know we've upped everything. But what are your concerns moving forward today in time?
So my major concern is that we haven't isolated the problem the way that I think we have, and that it is a rogue device that someone is purposely trying to create anarchy on the network, and it's just going to eat up all the bandwidth that's available. I don't think that's the case, but that's what my concern is.
But is it the bandwidth that's being eaten up and causing this problem?
Yep.
And why everything is?
Yep, absolutely.
So in moving forward, what you have in place right now, we should be able to identify that user.
That's correct.
So we can go to that specific, it could be a staff member, it could be a student, and it could be something innocent that they don't even realize they
That's
have
correct.
on their device.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna help them correct that problem if we identify that person?
Yes, we are.
Or people? Okay.
We're not there yet. He has a company coming in that
Right.
allegedly has a product that will help us do that.
Well, yes and no.
All right?
Because the students will be logging on tomorrow. Previously, we just could see that there was a problem.
Right.
Now we can attach a name to a device.
Okay.
So even without the company coming in,
Right.
we may be able to do exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so because this is such a sensitive issue here at the high school, as you know, you've heard from all of us, administration,
absolutely.
everyone's getting calls, we're getting
I
flooded with
understand.
emails. If there's any updates, if you can please just keep us informed. If we find things tomorrow or the
Yep.
next day, just keep us, that would be terrific. And then my last question is, how does this impact our overall student policy about bringing your own device in? Is that something that we need to pull as a policy committee and relook at that? Is that something we should all be having discussions on? Because we do have a bring your own device policy now in the district, and is that impacting? Are there things that maybe we need to look at differently in that policy?
So my preference would be to be open and to allow students to bring whatever device they feel comfortable with. I can tell you that other districts have a policy where you have to register every device that you're going to use on the network. There's typically a 3 to 5 day turnaround time to get that on, and if you have this device registered, but you decided you want to bring this device today, it's not registered, you can't get on, you're denied. I'd rather not go that way. I think that the solution that we're putting in place works well. All the students already have Windows account logons. Let me say that what we're putting in place, I wanted to do last year. We were told by the wireless company that because we have multiple domains in multiple schools and we have a shared wireless access across the district, that we couldn't put in this radius server. Speaking with the technician today, he went, "No, of course you can," and he did.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Young.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns? All right, we appreciate the update, and we want to continue to be updated on this
absolutely.
very serious
Yep,
concern
absolutely.
that we have in the district.
Yeah, I've been keeping the school administration as well as the high school administration as well as our administration up to date, and I'd be happy to share that with anybody.
All right, we
Great.
appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Young.
you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a good night.
Okay, do we have anyone this evening in the audience wishing to speak during Citizens Forum? Can you please identify yourself and come right up? And just identify your name and your street?
My name is Eric Clifford. I am a unit owner of the Tewksbury Townhouses on DeCarolis Drive.
Okay.
I'm here today in an attempt to get the bus stop changed where the kids get picked up and dropped off from school from the entrance of the community on the main road into one of our parking lots that we have inside of the community. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and there's about 10 or so kids in the community. And, you know, for safety purposes, it would definitely be beneficial if we could kind of have the kids picked up inside of the community. How it's set up right now is we don't really have any sidewalks in place in order for the kids to walk down to the bus stop. And we're also not really allowed to park our cars on the main entranceway. So right now it's kind of a hassle and a little unsafe for us to be walking down there every day. So I actually went around and went to all the unit owners within the community and got signatures, you know, in support of this. And out of 102 units, we were able to get 98 signatures. And the few that we didn't get were mainly because we couldn't get in touch with them. You know, after a few times, you can't really, you know, knock on their door too many times after that. And I've been in contact with the board of trustees for Tewksbury Townhouses, and they are in full support of the change. And they actually told me that previously the bus did actually go into the community and pick the kids up in this parking lot that I'm speaking of. So I was hoping we might be able to reinstate that and make that change. And one of the residents, Mr. David Gay, I believe, is a selectman in Tewksbury, and he suggests that, you know, maybe we come down here and speak to try to make that happen.
Okay, we want to thank you so much for coming this evening. We don't know, if we don't hear it, we don't know. Right. So if you could leave those documents with us this evening, we will definitely have someone follow up with you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for coming.
Just a couple of clarifying questions. You mentioned the Tewksbury Townhouses. Yep. So are the kids picked up on
Main Street? So it's on the corner of Main Street and DeCarolis, right at the entryway of the
Main Street and where, I'm sorry?
DeCarolis Drive.
Yeah, it's right near the
Salem
auto
5.
fair and the Salem 5. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I live in South Tewksbury.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have Mr. Libby look into it. We'll get back to
Can we
you.
just grab that?
Yeah, the bus stop's right
Is your
on
contact
Main Street.
information on there as well? Can you put it right on the top of the envelope for us, your name and number?
You know, that's their road.
Thank you very much for coming this
And
evening.
I actually apologize in advance. My daughter spilled a little paint on the top left corner on some of the signatures.
There's art. I like
so
it.
we were painting pumpkins and it got a little messy, so I do apologize for that.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you very much. I definitely appreciate you know, listening to me. And there's 2 copies in there as well.
Okay, thank you again for
Thank you
coming.
very much.
Appreciate it. Someone will be in touch. Okay, moving right along, our clerk, Mr. Cutlass, will present our meeting minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move the approval of the minutes for the October 14, 2015 regular school committee meeting.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to approve the minutes dated October 14th, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Cutlass.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Our clerk, Mr. Cutlass, will now present our payroll.
I'll move the payroll for the period ending October 22nd, 2015, the amount of $1,177,793.92.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to approve the payroll period ending October 22nd, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Cutlass.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Moving right along to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to take anything off the consent agenda this evening?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Miller.
I wanted to know if we're going to have a conversation about the changes in the park and the commentary from Mitchell Chester later in this meeting. Otherwise, I'll take this off the agenda, out of the consent agenda.
Okay.
We were going to talk about the park test in our report.
Okay, perfect. That's fine. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, with that being said, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
So I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda for this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Dr. O'Connor, may we have the superintendent and staff reports this evening?
Great, thank you. American Education Week is coming up November 16th through November 20th. All of our schools will be hosting a series of open houses, if you will, opportunities for parents to come in and observe classes, not to meet teachers and talk to teachers, but to come in and see the everyday workings of our public schools. I'm not going to read all of the activities that are planned. Suffice to say that at the North Street School, they're planning something on November 17th, the Heathbrook on November 16th. The Dewing School is actually breaking into two because they're so large. They're doing things on November 16th for grade 1 and full day kindergarten, and then on the 18th for the afternoon kindergarten. Trahan on November 20th, Ryan on the 17th, the Wynn School on the 18th for grade 7 and the 19th for grade 8. And all week long at the high school from the 16th through the 20th, there will be a variety of activities. Principals will be sending home information to parents regarding all of this, so I would pay close attention to emails, tweets, Facebook pages, and the PAC newsletters that probably will be coming home in the next week or so with information. Next week, on Tuesday, November 10th at 8:40, the Veterans Day ceremony here at the high school will take place. That is a great event for our high school. Mr. Francis will be speaking, representing the school committee, and the fact that Mr. Francis is a veteran is always a great opportunity for him to get up and talk to kids about service to our country. Career Day at the high school will be taking place on Tuesday, November 24th. If you received an invitation and want to come in and talk about a career, we'd love for you to do that. Or if you haven't received one, feel free to call the high school and offer your services. They could always use additional people to come in and talk with great high school students. So we have a number of sports teams that are involved in tournament play. Wednesday, today, field hockey at Weston High School at 2:30. Tomorrow, girls soccer at Whittier Tech at 2 p.m. Also tomorrow, boys soccer at North Reading High School at 4:30 p.m. Volleyball is at Hamilton Wenham on Friday at 7 p.m. And Saturday is our football game versus Danvers. Please note that event will take place at Colley Stadium in Lowell at 4 p.m. Technically, we were slated for the home game for this particular event. However, it's testing day, SATs here in Tewksbury. We would have to delay our game until 3 o'clock, which will enable our kids to take the SAT test. Unfortunately, at 3 o'clock, with no lights on the field, we could not get a full game in without having to have some sort of lighting brought in. It appeared to be much more reasonable to move the game to Lowell, considering it is in Tewksbury's backyard, if you will. It's only a few hundred yards down the road from the border here between Lowell. Our coach was very much in favor of playing at the Lowell Stadium. We have, there is a slight fee associated with that. Mr. Druin did sign a contract today with Lowell. In essence, we are renting the stadium. It is, the total cost is $640, and that includes the maintenance, the custodians, the electrician, and the cost of lighting. We will be providing our own concessionaires who will come in and run the concession stands, and the gate receipts will cover the cost of the field. Keep in mind that this is a split gate. Both teams benefit from the gate, so we have no qualms or any reservations at all about covering the cost for the game out of gate receipts. You may have questions, and you can ask now, or you can wait till afterwards. Our crisis book, part of our ongoing process with our school safety committee, our school security committee, district security committee, has revised the crisis handbooks. They are going to be distributed within the next few days to every employee in the all classroom teachers in all of our schools. We will continue to, and have been continuing, working with the ALICE protocols. We've conducted last week a drill at the Wynn School, and we will be conducting a drill at the Ryan School on Friday. Mrs. Regan, the district security team, and others have been very instrumental in preparing for this. We've had meetings for families. We've involved parents in planning, particularly at the Ryan School. I think that they've done a tremendous job of preparing for this drill, and I'm expecting it to go off beautifully. Just a reminder, there is no school next Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day, and the NESDEC, New England School Development Council contract was in the consent agenda. We can expect a visit from Michael Palladino to take place on Wednesday, November 18th, to start the special ed program review, which we've contracted for. We also will be taking a look at substitutes' daily rate of pay. We had an issue brought up regarding a rate of pay for a substitute aide. We looked at it and said, you know, we probably should go back and revisit all of the rates of pay. Let's keep in mind that 2 years ago, it might have been 3 years ago, the rate of pay for a substitute teacher was $50. We've raised that in the last 2 years. It's now $70, and if you are a retired Tewksbury teacher and substituting, your rate of pay is $85.
With lunch and preferential parking.
So we have, we're trying to get as many qualified substitutes in at all levels. What we did not do when we conducted that review, we did not look at the aides rate. And we are going to do that over the next couple of weeks. We'll be bringing that back. I don't know if we'll have it ready for the November meeting, but certainly the December meeting, we'll have something, a proposal and a cost estimate of what it would be if we were to raise that rate of substitute pay. Let's remember that the auction is Friday, November 20th. I'm sure people will be talking about the Tewksbury Education Foundation. Mrs. Palomino, we're going to mention something at the end? Okay, so I'll hold off on that. And then on November 18th, we have a number of teachers who are participating in a community dinner at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. It's called the You Teach Community Dinner. And participating teachers are Lynn Marsh, Gretchen Martell, Sue Hogan, Charlene Melly, and Robert Rogers. We're just very pleased to see these teachers volunteer their time to work with the staff at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. This will only go to strengthen our school system, so we truly appreciate that. And then just on a final note, Mrs. Regan is going to talk a lot about our in-service day yesterday. This was not your typical in-service day because it involved over 800 teachers from over 22 school districts were involved. This is the first time that this type of effort has been conducted, and I can tell you that Mrs. Regan was instrumental in moving this and pulling this whole tremendous day off yesterday. So I wanted to give her a nice pat on the back. An atta girl. And you're on.
Right. Well, I'm going to save the updates on the next generation assessment for old business, because that's where the document is from Mitchell Chester. So let me just start with Alice. John, you did most of the update on that. I did want to say that tomorrow, North Street and Trahan school students will participate in a very more intimate principal and teacher-led portion of the ALICE protocol. They'll do the alert, they'll do the lockdown with barricading the door, they'll do the informational piece and the evacuation. What they won't do is having the bad guy or the wolf, which comes in the storybook that they're reading, trying to come into the classroom with counter or swarming. So they'll take that at the appropriate level that the book has instructed them in. Teachers have sent home follow-up questions as well as letters about the training, and then after the practice tomorrow, and we do it early so that we have the students all day, and then if they're showing or exhibiting anxiety as a result, they're with the safety of their teacher and with their counselor, and then their parents can be called as well. I think it's going to go very well. The training has gone very well so far, and we've had all positive reports at the middle school and high school level, and as Dr. O'Connor noted, we're doing Friday morning at the Ryan, and for the same reason. So then the students are with us all day under our protective watch, and if should they show any anxiety, we'll be able to talk with them and their parent. Additionally, the drill letter that goes home to the parents explains what happened with some tips and suggestions about how to talk with your child about emergency planning and training. So I'm really proud of the work that we're done. It's really taken a team effort, and I think with the feedback we received from teachers and parents, we just continue to improve the process. And then you did bring up the PD full day. Let me first say that the whole day was a success. The Tewksbury Memorial High School participated in evidence gathering for the self-study process of their accreditation, the NEAS self-study process. Grades 5 through 8, all in the new library, and I won't steal Ms. Matthews' thunder, but in the newly renovated library at the Wynn, all the teachers of the Wynn and the Ryan participated in a Massachusetts tiered system of support, strengthening our core curriculum for all students. So they're building on their practice so that all students really have their needs met, is the goal. K through 4 teachers participated in a focused group of distinct workshops. Some were working on analyzing student writing and creative comprehensive rubrics for collaborating what that work should look like. It really piggybacks on their work last year with consistent FCAs, focused correction areas. Our reading teachers are working on, you'll hear more about this at our next meeting, consistent expectations about phonics instruction K through 4. What are those goals and those FCAs, you might say, in phonics at every grade level? Our K through 4 teachers were also analyzing science materials, and then our K through 4 co-teaching teachers were working with WestEd on co-teaching strategies and practices for all students in those classes. Our aides participated in a professional development with Relias with an e-training regarding the role of paraprofessional. All Kelly aides were required to attend unless they were absent for some reason. They all attended, and under the watchful eye of our 2 certified behavior specialists, because the aides will get a certification that they participated, and those Laura Labrie and Candace Tharrett, our behavior specialists, watched over the training to make sure that they received sufficient knowledge in that area. And then some of our Tewksbury Public School aides attended that training as well. Related special education service providers at all grade levels worked on consistent rubrics around the areas of progress monitoring and tracking and progress criteria in special ed. And then I'm finally most proud to talk to you about the MPEN success. As Dr. O'Connor talked about, this is the first time really this regional approach of public schools collaborating as a full team to bring our lower incident teachers who, we have 1 librarian, we have a handful of technology teachers, we have 1 art teacher in each building. So it's really hard to bring those teachers in those roles content-specific PD that's really relevant to their instruction. So when we collaborate with those districts, and we all put, it's 4 teachers by teachers, and we put teachers at the head of the class instructing each other on best practice, they really get a lot out of it. We had 53 librarians from 22 plus districts in this room. We had students from Tewksbury Memorial High School also presenting to librarians, and a quote from one of them said, "I can't believe that I presented to a group of librarians and I'm going to impact the way students learn in a library in high schools all over the state." So they were so proud. The 5 sites that housed over 850 teachers in these roles were Tewksbury, Billerica, Seam, Valley, and Crest. So we have our collaboratives involved as well. In between, as I said, all 5 sites, we had over 850 teachers, instruction by teachers for teachers, from 22 and more districts, because some districts sent 1 person. But if you were to go down to our gym, you saw PE and health teachers working in all 3 stations as well as those 4 classrooms on best practice around teamwork, adaptive PE, just how to use a Wii, how to bring in things for no cost and really amp up what PE looks like. It was really phenomenal. So you know, again, it's a team approach, and we couldn't have done it if the Tewksbury Memorial High School team didn't also come in to play. We had students here who were our ambassadors, our cafeteria staff, our custodial staff, Nancy O'Hare, certainly, they really were part of our team in making this a huge success. So we look forward to doing this every year, and maiden voyage was great. The feedback is amazing. Everyone I bumped into today was talking, you know, boy, that was great. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that for us. So we're really proud as a team and hope to expand it even further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
Sherry?
Reed.
Okay. I don't have much. As you heard, the library is complete. I believe you all received an email from me with pictures. There's enough seating in there for 78 kids. We have the section, the U tables, that we have computers that are either got installed today, maybe not with what happened with the high school working on it today, but this week will be installed, so we'll have enough to have a whole classroom in there, which is wonderful. We have the computers all set up. Everything looked great. Everything came in great. There was one panel that had a little crack on the bottom, but the company came the other day to double check on everything, and they're already sending us out a replacement for that one panel, so it's going to still be perfect. I did speak to the architect today. His name is Eric from HKT Architects. He's the one that's going to be doing the feasibility study on the center school. He said that he is finishing up the work plan and the schedule. He will be out probably Monday or Tuesday to start measuring and begin the feasibility. The town accountant has transferred the funds that were voted in, the $121,000 that was voted in into the general fund. She has transferred the funds in. Today I had Mr. Libby encumber all the payrolls. After he encumbered them, I printed out a report. There are some accounts that are not, we have some employees that aren't in the proper accounts. So once we fix that, I'm hoping for the next school committee meeting on the 18th, if not the first one in December, you'll have a full financial report and any adjustments we might have to make in between accounts. And I've also put together my timeline for the budget calendar, which again, on the very next school committee, I will have an official timeline to give you. But what I'm putting together now is I'm doing out the sheets to send off to the principals, and I'm going to be asking them by December 4th to have everything turned back into me with all of their priorities, and we're going to kind of kick it off then. By December 11th, I'm asking the principals to give us their top 2 priorities for the upcoming 16-17 school year. On or before January 13th, we're going to submit the initial budget request to the school committee and to the town manager, and then we're going to set up our, sorry, hold on one second, the initial budget request to the finance committee chair. So we're going to have that go to you, and then the finance committee liaison, is that still Mr. Lasecki? Okay, so it will be submitted also to Mr. Lasecki. On January 27th, we're planning our first budget, FY17 budget workshop at the Tewksbury Memorial High School. It's going to be here at 6 p.m. here in the library. On February 10th, at our regular school committee meeting, we'll have our public hearing on the FY17 school budget. And sometime in March, I don't have the exact date, we'll probably sit down and have a joint meeting with the finance committee, the superintendent of schools, myself, and some school committee members. On March 23rd, we will have our second public hearing, and it will be here at 7 p.m. in the library, and then sometime in May, the date hasn't been determined yet as to when the annual town meeting will be for the final vote. But I will lay it all out for you, and it will be included in your agenda at the next meeting.
And keep in mind, we can change any of those dates as we see fit. If we are encountering issues and we want to have a meeting to discuss those issues, we certainly can schedule that.
Does anyone have any questions?
Can you put that schedule online
When
later on when it
it'll
gets
be on the
adopted?
committee. It'll be on your agenda.
It's got to be on the agenda, so the whole agenda will
2
be.
weeks from now.
So the public will know?
Yes.
That's what I mean, just like
Yes.
it'll be posted on the
It'll be
website,
posted,
yeah.
yes. Yeah. It'll be posted as a draft, and then you'll
Yep.
look at it, and we'll make some tweaks to it if necessary.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Matthews. Moving right along, we're going to move to committee reports. Mr. Francis and Mr. Cutlass, do we have anything for the High School Building Committee?
Nothing to report tonight.
No.
Okay, thank you. For the Tewksbury Education Foundation, I would just like to encourage everyone that tickets are on sale. The event is November 20th. We encourage everyone to find a school committee member, find a board member, or you can also go through Community Pass and purchase your tickets that way. They're $20 in advance and $25 at the door. This year proceeds again will go to STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Music, and we encourage all those people to get involved in this year's annual auction. Okay, the Special Education PAC Executive Committee, Ms. Bianca Kolb wants to remind everyone that the November newsletter will be mailed and also posted on the website. And then she also wants to let everybody know that local Massport is working in conjunction with the Charles River Center. They're having themselves with airport and travel procedures and everything, and that event is going to be held on November 7th. So you can certainly go on their website for more information or reach out to Bianca Kolb herself. We're also working on a date where we will meet with the Special Ed PAC, and hopefully that'll happen sometime in November, early December. Okay, and then I'm going to over to Mrs. Miller for the wellness update.
Thank you, Mrs. Palomino. So the Wellness Committee met on October 26th. We had an outstanding turnout. It's a fantastic group of people within the town government and a group of parents as well. We talked about creating a collaborative newsletter and working to collaborate on events across town departments so that we know, we all know what's going on, and rather than duplicate efforts, make it easier for parents and residents to interact with our varied departments. We find with so many different events in town, people don't necessarily get the turnout that they're looking for. And so if we reduce those events and kind of work together to have our presence at all of them, then we can reach more people more effectively. So that was part of that conversation, and so that's going to go on further. We find that parents, and particularly parents, but residents in general, are just pulled in too many different directions. So we think that the newsletter and working together as a committee will help. We're going to seek permission from the superintendent down the road to see if we can post these collaborative events on the school department website to make it easier for parents to find these things. So we'll go through that with you later. We are looking for, one of the things we talked about were better ways to distribute flu shots within the community. Our health department has flu shots, but they don't have customers, so to speak. We were excited to learn that the principal of the Trahan School, Macastongwe, had brought in Safe Routes to School, and he talked a little bit about that, and we'd like to see more of the schools bringing in bicycle and pedestrian safety programs, particularly through Safe Routes, as there are grant opportunities associated with that program, in addition to the safety benefits to our students. We also have opportunities for students for internships or just community service volunteer positions. So they'll be working through the guidance department. The different departments will work through the guidance department to help open those up to our kids. And one of the things we're going to do later tonight is approve our wellness policy, but there was some discussion during the meeting that maybe down the road we will draft and include some inclusive language to recognize that we have our policy is school committee based. It doesn't really acknowledge that we have other town departments in it. And in an effort to recognize their contribution as an important part of this, maybe adding some language down the road. So that's probably 2 or 3 months away, or maybe in the spring. So probably just a sentence or two, but something to think about as we come up. Our next meeting is January 25th. We'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the newsletter when it comes out.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Okay, Mr. Dick, may we have the policies this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a number of policies that we're going to do a second and final reading for approval. And then we have some new policies for informational reading. So the policy subcommittee is myself, Mrs. Palomino, and the superintendent. For the policy for second and final reading is ADF wellness policy, BBBC school committee member resignation, BDC appointed committee officials, CB school superintendent, EBAB pest management policy, GCCD domestic violence leave policy, JBA student to student harassment, and then JC attendance areas. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion to adopt these. these policies.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
So I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to adopt the policies as reviewed by Mr. Dick this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well.
Thank you. And tonight, we're just going to do these next policies. We were going to revise current Tewksbury policies or adopt ones that we don't have from the MASC. So these are informational reading. If you have any feedback, you can just contact the policy committee. EBB-E- Accident Illness Notification Form, ECER, Tewksbury Memorial High School Parking Privileges, EEAEC, Student Conduct in School Buses, EEAEF, Use of Video Camera on School Buses, EFD, Payment for Food Services. And then the next set of policies, we're going to rescind as there's changes to federal or state law that they're obsolete, invalid, or should be replaced. They may no longer be relevant. These policies for the first informational reading are EBCA Crisis Team Procedures, EBCC Responding to Bomb Threat, EBCCE Tewksbury Fire and Police Notification Card, EBCC-R Administrative Procedures, Bomb Threats and Other Incidents, EEAEC-R Student Conduct on School Buses, and the last policy is FB Facilities Planning. And that's all I have on policies.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Moving right along to old business, the first item is the enrollment data. Dr. O'Connor, the official count.
Thank you. This is the October 1 enrollment that this data will be sent to the ESC and will be used as comparison purposes to previous years. And I wanted to make you aware, I did provide you with the this year's October 1. We continue to see an overall slight decline in enrollment from year to year. This has been a 10, 12-year trend in enrollments in Tewksbury. You'll see our number represents 3,553 students. That's again, a slight decrease from last year. But I think that's something that we've talked about at every meeting, at least the times that I've been here for the last 5 years, that our enrollment continues to decline. A bright note in that, our high school enrollment has increased dramatically by 200 students from 4 years ago. That year before the building was opened, the new building. And we've maintained that last year and this year our numbers were very similar, which says we're keeping kids here in the high school a much higher percentage that we have in previous years.
Okay. Prior to going right to the Boston Globe article, I wanted to just summarize, the new and updated information that I gave to you, because I have to tell you, in education right now, the information is coming at us daily, and things are in constant motion, right? The political banter doesn't help, because, from an educational standpoint, we don't go there, but obviously that is what's out in the paper, and that's what we're reading and hearing. So let me just go over the summary of the PowerPoint that the department sent us first. The park experience really reflects the growing pains that a state lives through when standards are revised, and we look to develop an assessment that is relevant to those standards. Most of all, from an educational standpoint, what we look at is how do we best prepare our students and our teachers to instruct our students effectively. So unfortunately, the controversy is playing itself out in the political process, but I'm not a politician. I am an educator. I can tell you that I focus on improving student performance and, as I said, our teacher effectiveness. And those standards came with a new evaluation tool. We have to see that this is not a simple thing about one test, which again is the banter. This is about a whole process. The standards that students are to learn by, the effectiveness evaluation tool for teachers, the assessments, we talked about DDMs, and standardized evaluative tools on student impact, and then parent input. So it's really a big, complex system. But we'll just talk about the test. Park, what is it? One of the companies, and I have to say that, Park is a company. It's not going to be the name of whatever our test is. Smarter Balance is a company. Measured Progress is a company. measure progress, develops MCAS. PARC was one of the companies that the national board sanctioned to try to develop a better next generation test. That's the one Massachusetts became involved in. A next generation assessment is inevitable. We know that. MCAS has outlived its effectiveness, and I'm partially quoting Mitchell Chester here. And it does not totally align itself to 21st century standards that our students need to live by. We also know, and the report summarizes, that it does not show our students are ready for college when they leave our high school, the safety of our high school. Massachusetts, like other states, put teachers on the board to not be cheerleaders of the test, but to keep PARC's feet to the fire to develop an assessment that would be to the quality that Massachusetts wants. So I think that focus has really been about good instruction in this whole process. The assessment should align itself to good instruction. And whichever company develops that will remain to be seen. Whether it's PARC, Measured Progress again, Smarter Balance, but make no mistake, we're leading to a next generation assessment. I think Massachusetts has learned a lot from the process. The results we've seen so far are very preliminary. In fact, district data is embargoed until either November 9th or 10th. So we can't really report on it. I can tell you, though, that there's no real surprises. Students, and we've seen the data, that did very well in MCAS last year, did very well in PARC this year. The test was more rigorous. It was expected to be. It's designed to be, and that's the hope, is that we have a test that's designed to not only be more rigorous to higher quality standards, but really focus on thinking, critical thinking and problem solving, and being able to show that. Teachers have always criticized MCAS is a great inspection of the district. How are we instructing our kids? How are we doing our job well enough? But it really never gave the student an opportunity to really show their thinking and problem solving. And we need technology to help to do that. So since 2010, we've been trying to align our curriculum based on the revised frameworks, but we've not really had an assessment to tell us, are we doing that well? That's the goal. We need a new assessment that obviously has technology and a technological practice platform for regular day-to-day instruction. So those are all the goals. I can say the results show in grades 3 to 8 districts, we know that over half of our districts in Massachusetts tried the new next-gen assessment, at least the draft. November 17th will be the deciding week from the Board of Education, using the input from Mitchell Chester. At least that's what the goal is, the week of November 17th. I think most telling, and again, if we take the political argument out of the mix, is what did the principals and the teachers and students say about their experience? Because that's really what should be driving the decision. You looked at 71% of our principals said that this was a more demanding test, and that it was better at assessing students' ability to think critically. 40% said it was higher, 30% the same. If we look at the summary of the data, 65% say that the information presented, the format presented was better and more relevant to students in the way that they should be learning in the classroom. From our teachers, 72% of Mass teachers say that it was a higher quality assessment. 67% of our teachers say that it was better at measuring students' critical thinking skills. And that data was very similar in other states. So students completing on time, 75 to 81% of our students completed on time on a paper-based test, and 86 to 93% on the computer-based test. This is grades 3 to 8, because we're really only looking at that shift. The high school shift is a totally different ball game. I can also say that many say the test was easier. Now that's really, I love that. Every year when we ask our students, how did you do? How did you do? They'll say, it was easy, it was great, it was great. Nothing was a surprise, right? I think the results show otherwise. This was a slightly more difficult test, and we saw, it's interesting, we saw that our students did mostly the same or slightly lower, except for in 4th grade, which was very fascinating. We've always known that the 4th grade test is the most difficult and rigorous MCAS test, and that's in part due to the long prom. And we saw our fourth graders able to hold up to the rigor of the fourth grade PARC. So there's some correlation there that needs to be explored. 92% math students and 92% taking the ELA finished on time. That was really good because this is the first time Massachusetts entered into well, I shouldn't say the first, in a long time in a timed test. Only 24% to 25% of the districts taking the computer-based test say they had technological problems. I can tell you that the Tewksbury students at the high school did have tech problems. It's only the high school that tried it because we knew we had the tech available to us. We're really not sure still if that was a high school issue, a Tewksbury issue, a thin client virtual network issue, or a PARC issue, because 24% of the districts that did use technology said they had difficulty. That means that 76% did not. So I'm hopeful that we're fixing whatever that issue may be when we go to an online test in the future. So as I said, the district results will be available to report on November 9th or 10th. Student results will not be available till probably early December, which may impact my ability to give you a full analysis of all those results. I'm happy to piecemeal it, look at where we were with MCAS this year and then go into that with an analysis of the two once they're out. So what's next for Tewksbury? We know that when the results are out there, we're going to have some parent presentations and put some online information out there for Tewksbury parents. How do I read these reports? I'll tell you the reports are far superior to what we've ever seen in reporting on where the students' abilities were. I'm really impressed with them. Our goals are always and will always be to best prepare our students for whatever the Massachusetts approved standards-based instruction test is, and to help our teachers know how to best instruct the students to meet that, the goal of being a level 1 district. So Mitchell Chester reported in the paper, well, the paper reported some of the things that he had to say. Clearly MCAS has run its course. We will not continue with MCAS as we know. Yet what will we continue with? The minute the words MCAS 2.0 came out of his mouth, he reported the next week and said it out loud to over 1,000 educators and administrators, I regret that comment. We can't be thinking it will be MCAS again. It will be some blend of the two. We'll take what we learned, the best things we learned from PARC, that company developing our test, remember teachers developing it, and what we already have with in the process, and develop some blend of the two. He still has not recommended, he did say at the convening, we may all take the PARC test this spring. The decision is still yet to be made, because we know in his quote in here, it's a stronger advancement over our MCAS. What we come out with in the end run is still, remains to be seen. I think, my analogy to our piece in the process is much like a marathon, and we always used to say that to the kids, even over MCAS. You don't sit down one day and just take an MCAS test. I mean, you instruct, the best instructional practices are in the class, and then kids need to build up that muscle for taking such a long assessment. We know the assessment's changing, and just like a marathon, if we were told tomorrow that it's a 30-mile run now, we have to start preparing for that, even if we don't know what it looks like, where will it end, what will be the course. And I think that's the benefit that we've gained in Tewksbury by looking at a more difficult assessment and preparing. So, I don't know how to other comment on the article. They change daily. This is now, weeks ago. As I said on October 27th at the convening, Mitchell was he showed us some of that embargo data. Also reported that Massachusetts was #1 in the NAEPS, which is another assessment not everybody uses, but a national assessment. And I think we have to stay tuned day to day as to what shape will the next assessment take, and will our students be ready?
Thank you, Mrs. Regan. Mr. Cutler?
Yeah, can I say a few questions? Thank
Sure.
you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Mrs. Regan or Dr. O'Connor, they've been developing that park over how many years? It's been a number of years.
Yeah, 3 years. In the same, I would say 3.
Nationwide at a cost of millions of dollars?
Yes.
So there were 2 tests.
2 sanctions.
body that oversaw all of this, which I believe were made up of the superintendents, the state superintendents from across the country, yeah?
Yeah.
They decided one might not fit all, so they went to two separate vendors. So you're going to hear about Smarter Balance. That was the name of the other test that was given. New Hampshire, for example, gave the Smarter Balance.
Okay.
Massachusetts went with Park. There were 30-some-odd states, I believe, that ultimately went with one or two, not all of them. Some of them backed out and relied on their, what test they had been giving up to that point.
Right, and was Mitchell Chester, was he the head of this whole endeavor?
The park, so two companies were brought in. He was the leader of the governing board of the states that were helping to develop the park.
And it seems to me, I mean, you know, the MCAS has gone by the boards. They're going to spend another 5 years and another millions of dollars developing a hybrid. It seems like a complete waste of time and money and effort to satisfy a political need of certain people that don't like nationwide testing. Is that?
Yeah, I don't really think that that's going to happen. I mean, I can make a prediction on TV, but I think what we're going to see is the work that's already been done manage its way into why would we take all of that? Why wouldn't we take all of that good work and utilize it?
We absolutely
I mean,
should. What are we going to be? We'd be left with no testing. I mean, an outdated test that doesn't work, that's just a terrible thing to do. All right, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Cutlass. Mr. Dick?
So in your opinion, Tewksbury, how is Tewksbury situated? Just once again, are we in a better spot now that we've
Well,
did the
yeah,
trial?
and I'm going to tell you why. I think there's two key pieces. Is one, getting our students ready, like I said, that marathon, that preparation, right, for a different type of questioning, but also teachers are very, we have fantastic teachers that instruct our students, so I want this to come out right. But when do you really make the shift to change the way you're questioning and assessing in the class? You have to really know, what does that end game look like a little? I have to know what tools to use to practice. I have to know what that's going to look like. And if we keep looking at our old tests, which we know isn't going to exist, it's pretty hard to make that shift and use assessments in the room to reflect the next generation assessment. So I think our teachers are better prepared because, one, they started really looking at better tools that are out there and available that reflected the higher rigor standards, and online technology for assessments, for formative assessments. I think our students are have a little edge on being better prepared because they were looking at next. What do I mean by saying that? Let me give you an example. If you are being asked to analyze 2 excerpts from a book and a video, and then take the textual evidence and what you saw and write an analysis of those, that text. That's something that the MCAS has never done and can't do because there's no technology included in it. So our teachers were putting that type of assessment and questioning into practice, knowing that's coming. If they had no purpose for doing it because, geez, let's wait and see what's coming, we would be, in my opinion, a little behind the 8 ball running that marathon without decent practice.
And you mentioned, and I don't know if I caught you correctly, that they could, he could say this is where we're going and we have to implement that test? Or it's still?
Well, we still have a test to take this spring. What will it be? We're still part of the consortium until June of 2016.
Yeah. So it could come out that way. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Mr. Francis?
Thank you. From a parent, when my daughters were young, when MCAS first came out, and I know Mr. Cutlass could relate to this, the angst back then was, I want to say, 20 times worse now. And everybody says, when that test first came out, this is a lousy test, this ain't going to help our students, why are we doing this, why are we getting involved in this program? And now we've come like full circle, that many of the politicians, as you said before, many of the politicians who thought that the MCAS was the worst thing that ever happened are now saying it's the best thing that ever happened. And I think that educators, we're here to educate, and that's what everybody's here for the education of the kids. We have to leave, I'm talking statewide, we got to leave the politics out of this decision. As Mr. Cutlass said, we've put in millions of dollars into trying to develop something that's better for our students. And whether it be the park or some version of something, is I think to stop this process and start all over again makes absolutely no sense for the children, makes no sense for the education community, and as a taxpayer, I wouldn't want to see that happening, to waste more millions of dollars again. I think that the direction that we're trying to do to improve the test, to make it more for the students, what they've learned, how they're going to develop, and how they're going to move forward is very important. And I think that a decision like this that Mr. Chester has to make is that has to leave the politics out of this. This is not a political decision. This is an educational decision, and that's how it should be based. Thank you.
And I think he's quoted in the article as saying that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Mrs. Miller?
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Regan, for bringing this forward. It's certainly, I heard him give this interview on NPR, I think, where they excerpted it one day when I was driving to work. And what I thought was more compelling, and we haven't discussed it, is that the problem with MCAS, not only that it's outlived its life, but the real weakness is that districts have begun to teach to the test.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily an effective measure because we're completely teaching to the test.
Right.
And my concern is...
Ineffectively even so in those districts. I mean,
yeah.
We'd all be level 1 if they could do that effectively, right?
Right. And so the next generation test is more about applying the knowledge and not necessarily having districts teach to the test. And I certainly wouldn't want to see that here. I don't think that that's useful. When we move forward, my question for you is, when does the district have to decide on spring testing?
We don't get to decide.
We won't have this choice.
We can't step out and say we're not doing park this year?
No, not to my knowledge, and that was brought up at the convening. Again, this is a week after this,
I know,
on the 27th.
And it's changing landscape.
And that question was raised by another district, and there will be, he was not foreseeing that we have a choice. The decision will be made for everyone to take whatever test it is this spring, and then it'll be adapted as we move on over the next couple of years to be whatever it is.
So it's really an evolution, is what we
It's a very good word.
See.
That's a very good word.
We'll apply our knowledge. And I think he said MCAS 2.0, and he regrets that, but it seems also that he's interested in bringing back the control to Massachusetts and not necessarily leaving it in the hands of a corporation. Did you get a sense of that?
Absolutely, and I think that's why Mitchell Chester was so personally involved, because Massachusetts has always done things our way. When the Common Core came down, Massachusetts said, well, we already have these rigorous standards, let's look at how we adapt ours and incorporate the Common Core, which has very wonderful facets about applying knowledge and practice being more important than just skill. So I think that just the fact that no matter what assessment we go to this year will be one assessment, not two, meaning not a performance-based in March and one in May, is already Massachusetts taking control over it. So we've already made the decision as a state. There'll only be one assessment in ELA in the spring, one in math, and then the science stays, one.
So the two things that I'm looking at as I go forward, and I'll be at the conference this week, and I know you must be looking at as well, as the longitudinal comparisons that we can see from year to year. As this, if it evolves, are we still testing the same skills? How are we going to be able to really track how a student does over time? And I think we will, but what will that look like practically speaking, particularly as it pertains to teacher evaluations? And
can't wait to show you some of that data.
Well, I'm going to sit down with you. And then the other piece is the technology piece. And a quarter of districts experiencing problems with technology is a significant portion. It's 1 in 4. So I think that's a very big number. And so how they tackle that and how we go forward with that, I think will be key, particularly as we start approaching our budget season.
I think there was one of the quotes in here that said, the issues that are there with technology can't stop us from moving forward with it. They are there. We have to address them. The E-rate money is available for infrastructure and that the issues that many schools face. But we somehow have to continue to balance paper and technology, and as you said, as we evolve into what an assessment should look like.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along to the Tewksbury Public Schools report card update.
Okay, jeez. I have a lot to say, I'm sorry. You know, this is an evolution, if you will, as well, in our implementation of Aspen Gradebook and the electronic gradebook for all teachers. So, you know, the analogy of flying the plane building the plane while you're flying it is really what we're doing here, because teachers needed to set up their gradebook. As a result, as I've already said, and at several of our meetings, you have changes in the way the report card comes out. So what I have for you after meeting with teachers in the past year, and then parents and administrators, are two things. A grading guide. This grading guide is for both teachers and parents to help them understand the rubric, the developmental rubric, kindergarten through grade 2, and then that grading policy and what that really means in grade level expectations, grade 3 through 12. So, I mean, you can see this, and I think what's really nice is the teachers feel so strong, as did the parents I met with, that assessing a student learning to read, learning about numbers, is not easy to do with grades. Kids aren't building resumes in grades 1 and 2. Do you know what I mean? They're learning. And are they learning at a developmentally appropriate pace is what the grading system is about. So that's what you see in K-2. The kindergarten report card we've already talked about is very developmental for semester 1 and semester 2. And this one is most reflective of a standards-based report card. What happens in grades 1 and 2 is students use that developmental rubric, and these courses are directly reflected from the grade book the teacher's using in Aspen. And it just shows a test kid that we have in the system with some sample scores. On the back of that report card, including all the report cards, we'll print this grading guide for the K-2 parents, and then the 3 to 4 parents as well. So it helps them read it with some knowledge of what goes into, what does a 4 mean, what does a 3 mean. If you look at grade 3 and 4, it's very similar to the Ryan report card, where now teachers are using their grade book and their scores they put in, whether they put in a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a grade, it gives an average at the end that turns into a letter grade. So we move into the more traditional report card, as well as the Ryan and the WIN. I want to just note the changes at the WIN. We unearthed and I remember this as being a parent, when my children hit the WIN Middle School. All of a sudden, the effort and behavior scale went to a 3-2-1, when all the others were 4-3-2-1. So we brought that to a consistent rubric, just like all the rest. So, because I remember parents being confused when, let's say, their child was used to getting a 4 in effort in the ELA, and all of a sudden they went to the WIN, and now there's all these 3s. Well, they thought, maybe, what did my child do? Not do the work? Or what happened when it was just the rubric was inconsistent to the rest? So that was an improvement. And then you have your report card from the high school, which hasn't changed. So this is a complete set of our report cards. I think we've put them in more of a consistent, developmentally appropriate lineup all the way through, and we'll continue to take feedback from parents and teachers in the evolution of Aspen Gradebook.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Thank you, Mrs. Regan. Next up is the Alice.
The next is the Alice information that we've provided for you. Again, as I mentioned during our superintendent's report, the district security team has done a tremendous job of organizing the Alice training for our staff. We're now working with our students. The cover sheet that you see here with the frequently asked questions, and I have to give a sort of a little atta-girl to both Mrs. Regan and Allie Meeker, who is the school psychologist at the Ryan School, worked at crafting these questions and providing answers for parents.
Can I clarify?
Sure, go ahead.
Ms. Meeker, these questions here, we contributed to as a team and from the Alice training, and then Ms. Meeker, it wasn't ready for this packet, but it is going on the back of all the drill letters now, has a wonderful, from a school psychologist perspective, how to talk with your child after the drill.
Particularly the younger students?
It's really, you'll see, those of you who have students, and we can certainly send you a copy of it as well, just how thoughtful it is and really helps a parent listen and not, and reflect and not overreact, because students reflect the parents.
And much of the work that the district security team is doing with our younger students is a result of parent feedback that we had last year regarding our Ryan school drill, and to some extent the middle school. We've made some slight adjustments. We've made significant adjustments to the Ryan drill, and we're again introducing a much more kid-friendly and parent-friendly program to our elementary schools. Mrs. Palomino serves on that committee. She's been to a number of the drills. She's been, I think, very impressed with the work that our police department has done in partnering with us to bring these protocols to the schools.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a true collaboration between the Tewksbury Police Department, the STAR teams, Tewksbury Public Schools. It really is a true collaboration and everything that goes on in the district security team. Fire department as well.
Yeah, and Andre Gonzalez, Detective Gonzalez, has just been so responsive to the district to continuously improve it. In fact, we had other school districts and police departments from around the Commonwealth come to see how we did the drill at the high school in the Wynn and learn from us, and we're sharing our things with them. And again, it's a testament to Andre's attention to this and helping our schools evolve. I keep using that word, Ms. Miller, thank you.
It's a great
Okay, moving right along to new business.
To new business, there's an informational item in the packet regarding the new program that's being introduced. And again, it's an evolutionary program. We have had a program in place for many, many years. This, I think, is a significant upgrade to the credit recovery. We're instituting this program where students are going to be able to make up failed classes or classes that were impacted by poor attendance. And as you can see, there's a great deal of information that was sent home to students and parents about the program, and I think it's going to work exceptionally well. It's all computer-based. And
challenge in the last couple of weeks.
Yep. But it's going to be a great program for our students, and I think this is going to help our graduation rate down the road.
I think a little plug too, and we need to do a better job marketing, is that Edgenuity is also available in the summer for students that want to participate in enrichment. So a student who's looking to maybe advance up the ladder of language or math that wants to take a summer course, these seats are available to our kids all summer long. So,
Very good.
yep, we have motivated students and we have offerings for them.
Next, Mrs. Matthews will provide you with a brief overview of our grants and where we are with the distribution of those grant funds.
Yep, this is actually FY15 wrap-up. So this basically tells you in FY15 we received approximately $1.3 million in state, federal, and private grants. And of that, as you see, we've pretty much spent everything. The teacher quality, which is Title IIA, and the Title I, which is at the bottom, those are 2-year grants. They're rollover grants. The teacher quality, we have actually already spent everything. Title I, we still have until next June to complete spending. What you will notice up here for the Project Pohilo grant, we ended up sending back $1,300 just because every single expense that we had used, and that money was left over. We did receive that grant again this year, but it was $20,000, and we will use every bit of it. So this is just a wrap-up of everything this year. I've been working with Ms. Vestaria. She was here. She told you about the 530B grant today. So we're trying to get all the grants for FY16. I'm trying to wrap everything up. Some of the applications are still going in, so I didn't want to give you a complete FY16 update yet, as some of them haven't been approved yet. So either if I can get it all in by November 18th, if not, the first meeting we have in December, I'll make sure that I update you on everything we have for FY16 so far.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just,
Mr. Cutlass?
how much money do we get from the federal government? Do we know?
How many of these are federal? Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking me?
And yeah, and then we could,
And then there's the special education.
Well, like that's Fed 94-142, that's a federal. I mean, it's special education, but it's federal.
yeah.
Library of Higher state, federal,
Title I.
federal. Title I, Title IIA are federal. SPED program improvement is federal.
So over $1 million anyway,
Oh, yes.
every
Yeah,
year.
because 823 is just,
For special ed.
well, no, that's just for the 94-142 grant. So for special ed, if you add that one plus the program improvement, which last year was 31, you have about 855. I will tell you, the program improvement was cut greatly this year. And I believe it's like 16 or 17 as opposed to the 31 that we had last year.
But those are grants we get.
They're
annually.
entitlement grants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're rollover grants,
All right.
entitlement grants.
So over probably $1 million approximately every year
Oh, yes,
to our budget. All right.
at least.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any
thank you, Ms.
questions?
Matthews.
And the final item on your agenda this evening involves the distribution of funds from the Valley Collaborative. Back in June, and then again in October, the Valley Collaborative Board of Directors voted to return funds to the partner school districts. In June, there was $150,000 that the administrative team at Valley Collaborative felt that they had exceeded the amount of money that they can keep on reserve by $150,000. And then as bills were paid over the summer, they came up with an additional $73,498. Using a formula based on the number of students from Tewksbury in attendance and the number of students from the other 10 partnering districts in attendance, Tewksbury will be looking at a check for $19,893 and $12,157.76. Originally, I was going to ask whether or not we would have the checks returned to us or apply the funds to future credit to tuitions at the school. However, in consultation with the town manager, we looked at carefully the memorandum from Valley Collaborative and confirmed that the funds involve FY 14-15 school year, last year's money. Therefore, I've been advised to ask that we have the funds returned to us, returned over to the town treasurer. At town meeting in May, we will look at turning the funds through town meeting back to the school district that we then could use to apply to future expenses at Valley Collaborative. So I'm asking for a motion here this evening to accept the two checks, one for $19,893, and then $12,157.76, which when we receive the checks, we will turn that over to the town, and then we will put that on as a warrant article for us in May.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Francis?
No, I was going to make a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, to accept from Valley Collaborative the two checks, one for $19,893 and the other one for $12,157.76.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor to accept from the Valley Collaborative, the Tewksbury School Committee accepts a cash settlement or a tuition credit of $19,893 for the fiscal year 2016, as well as the Tewksbury School Committee accepts a cash settlement or a tuition credit of $12,157.76 for the fiscal year 2015. This requires a roll call vote. Mrs. Miller, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Francis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Dick, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. Moving right along to school committee matters of interest. We're going to start with you this evening, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, as I choke over here for no good reason. You already picked up one of the items I wanted to ask you about, which was the substitute pay. So I look forward to getting some more information about that, and maybe looking at changing that soon. And then the other thing I wanted to just talk about, you mentioned the budget workshops and so forth coming up. I wanted to invite parents to come in and talk about what they'd like to see in our budget this year. Our principals do a great job, and our administrators do a great job. I just want to invite the community, not just parents, but certainly residents, to come in and make their wishes known, because town meeting is too late to do that. So they should feel that they can come in and just like this gentleman did this evening, come and talk to us, and certainly reach out to school committee members. And I will be coming up with my list of priorities as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Mr. Francis.
Thank you. As Dr. O'Connor said, next Wednesday is Veterans Day, and I think that if anybody sees any veterans around in the next week or so, if you're in Dunkin' Donuts or another place having a cup of coffee, you see a man in uniform, I think it might be nice to buy that person a little cup of coffee and thank him or her for their service. I think it's something that sometimes we take for granted, and I think that especially this time of the year, especially what's going on in the world today, that we should thank our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Mr. Cutlass.
I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Cutlass. Mr. Dick.
Just want to wish Mr. Francis a very happy 29th birthday and many more. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. And then I just have a few items. The first item being just a reminder to the community and to all our families out there, the superintendent search committee is well underway. The deadline is this coming Monday, November 9th, for submitting an interest letter to be on the superintendent search committee. And we encourage all those people interested to please do so by the deadline. The second item is that if the committee would we have a school committee meeting scheduled for December 16th. And I'm requesting that we move that school committee meeting to December 9th, which is a week before. And the reason I'm asking that is there is a conflict with the superintendent search. We have etched out the week of December 14th to the 17th for that. So I myself will not be available serving on that committee. And I would like to maybe make a motion or vote if we can just change that meeting, if everyone thinks that's okay.
Second.
So I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to move the original school committee meeting dated December 16th, 2015 to December 9th, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Mrs. Johnson, could you just make a change to that immediately on the website, and then we'll make sure we get that information out to the community. Thank you. And then lastly, I would just like to let everyone know that Mrs. Miller will now be representing the school committee as our delegate at the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Conference this weekend. And so I would encourage each one of the school committee members to reach out to Mrs. Miller prior to the vote at the delegate, which would be on Saturday, to make sure that you read those documents over, and if there's a certain, you have certain views on the voted items, to please give Mrs. Miller that opportunity to let you know how you vote.
Absolutely.
Okay, are there any future school committee agenda items from anyone on the committee like to put on? Okay, not seeing any. Our next scheduled meeting is November 18th, 2015. And then at that point, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second on the floor to adjourn this evening's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. We'll see everybody back here on November 18th. Thank you.